And we're back. All right, so we are going to go to problem number 9. Again, we can choose which side we want to work on. But when I first look at this, I think, I've got a negative cosine squared on the right, and I've got a sine squared on the left, and a sine squared on the right. I mean, I have some options, but I think what I'd like to do is change that sine squared, because this identity, sine squared x plus cosine squared of x, we know equals 1. So if I want to isolate this sine squared, I can move this cosine squared over and have it be sine squared of x equals 1 minus cosine squared of x. So I can substitute in for the sine squared this 1 minus cosine squared, which is what I'm going to do over there. So I'm working on the right. So I'm going to put my equals on the left, 1 plus, and now I'm going to substitute in the entire quantity, so in parentheses, 1 minus cosine squared of x. Now we can see where this is going, because 1 plus 1 is 2. So there's our 2 minus cosine squared of x. And sometimes you're gonna pick something, you're gonna try something, and it's not wrong, it's right. It just doesn't get you to go where you want it to go, so you just erase it and try something else. I've done that plenty of times. But now the right side is the same as the left, and so I can, very small. Oh, am I putting x? Should be theta. And they're just using theta here instead of x, same thing. But now my right is the same as the left, so I have verified. No questions? That was number 8. Let's go to number 9. I'm gonna need some more room, so I'm gonna erase this. Can I erase? All right, number 9. I'm just gonna go ahead and start on the left. I'm gonna write cosecant as 1 over the sine of x, and this is minus the sine of x. And then take a look at it, put my equal sign. Now I notice, this is like the sine of x over 1. So this is a fraction over 1, and this is a fraction with a denominator of sine of x. I can't add those two fractions because they have different denominators. I'm going to have to make the denominators the same. So to do that, I'm going to multiply this fraction by sine of x over sine of x. And I'll do that in different colors so you can see it. So sine of x times sine of x. Now, I have the same denominator, and I can write the numerator as 1 minus sine squared of x over sine of x. Take a look at that. Make sure you have no questions on that. This one's a little bit trickier. So now we just looked at sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1, right? The Pythagorean, one of the Pythagorean identities. So 1 minus sine squared should equal what? If I take this and move it to the other side, what's that going to equal? What's 1 minus 1 minus sine squared going to equal? It's going to be cosine squared. I'm just manipulating this Pythagorean identity, isolating the cosine squared. So 1 minus sine squared equals cosine squared. So I'm going to go ahead and substitute that cosine squared in for this 1 minus sine squared. So I'll do that. I don't know, different color. we're getting somewhere, because now I look at the other side and I can see in my head, and you can write this out if you want, but you can't write anything on the right. This cosine times cotangent is cosine times cotangent is cosine over sine. So that's what we have. So I'm just going to rewrite this like that, and then change that to cotangent, and then I'm done. So I'm going to write this as cosine of x, times cosine of x over sine of x. And these are being multiplied, so that's like a cosine of x over 1. That's okay. These aren't, we're not adding them, we're multiplying. And now I've run out of room. And when you run out of room, the best thing to do is to draw an arrow to somewhere else on the paper that there's plenty of space, just so everyone knows where you're going. So like this. And just finish the problem. So I forgot my equal sign. I'll put my equal sign there. And now I'm going to rewrite this as cosine times cotangent. Now that is the same as the right, so I can finish the identity and verify it. That was a little bit trickier. We've got one more problem coming up.